Hey everyone, welcome back to Danny's Mind Facts. Today, we're diving into a topic that's both fascinating and chilling. Psychological experiments gone wrong. These controversial experiments had unexpected and often troubling outcomes. In the world of psychology, researchers often push the boundaries to understand human behavior. While many experiments have led to groundbreaking discoveries, some have ventured into ethically gray areas, leaving a lasting impact on their participants. From the infamous Stanford Prison Experiment to the deeply unsettling monster study, these experiments reveal the darker side of human nature. So buckle up as we delve into these shocking truths and uncover the lessons they hold for us today. Let's get started. Imagine being locked in a basement, cut off from the outside world, and forced to play a role, either as a prisoner or a guard, with no escape. That's exactly what happened in the infamous Stanford Prison Experiment conducted in 1971. Led by psychologist Philip Zimbardo, the study aimed to observe the psychological effects of perceived power and authority. Participants were randomly assigned to be either guards or prisoners in a meticulously designed mock prison environment. What started as a controlled environment with clear rules and boundaries quickly spiraled out of control. Within days, the guards began to exhibit sadistic behaviors, subjecting the prisoners to intense psychological torture and humiliation. The prisoners started showing signs of severe emotional distress, depression, and a profound sense of helplessness. The environment became so toxic and harmful that the experiment, originally planned for 2 weeks, had to be terminated after just 6 harrowing days. This rapid escalation highlighted how easily ordinary people could become abusive and cruel in certain situations. The Stanford Prison Experiment serves as a powerful reminder of the potential for cruelty and inhumanity in all of us. It shows how situational factors, such as the environment and assigned roles, can influence behavior, leading people to act in ways they might never have imagined. The study also raised significant ethical questions about the treatment of participants in psychological research, sparking debates that continue to this day. Despite its controversial nature, the findings of the Stanford Prison Experiment have had a lasting impact on our understanding of human behavior and the dynamics of power. Stay tuned as we delve into our next experiment, which explores the dark side of obedience and authority, revealing even more about the complexities of human nature. Next, we have the Milgram Experiment, conducted by psychologist Stanley Milgram in the 1960s. This groundbreaking study has become one of the most famous and controversial experiments in the history of psychology. This study aimed to test people's willingness to obey authority, even when it meant harming others. Milgram wanted to understand how far individuals would go in following orders, even if those orders conflicted with their personal conscience. Participants were instructed to administer electric shocks to a person in another room whenever they answered a question incorrectly. They were told that the shocks were part of a learning experiment. The shocks increased in intensity with each wrong answer, starting from mild and escalating to severe levels. What made the Milgram experiment so shocking was the extent to which participants were willing to obey authority figures. Many participants showed signs of stress and discomfort but continued to follow orders. Despite hearing screams of pain and pleas to stop from the person receiving the shocks, most participants continued to administer the shocks when instructed to do so by the experimenter. This demonstrated the powerful influence of authority on human behavior. In reality, no actual shocks were given, and the person in the other room was an actor, but the participants believed the situation was real. This deception was crucial to the experiment's design. The results of the Milgram experiment revealed the dark side of obedience. It showed that people are capable of inflicting pain on others when directed by an authority figure, even if it goes against their moral beliefs. It showed that ordinary people could commit harmful acts when directed by an authority figure. This finding was both shocking and eye-opening, challenging our understanding of human nature. This study highlighted the potential for cruelty in all of us and raised important questions about the nature of authority and obedience. It forced society to confront uncomfortable truths about the power dynamics in various settings. As we move on to our next experiment, we'll explore the impact of harmful labels on young, impressionable minds. This next study delves into the psychological effects of negative labeling. The monster study is up next, and its findings are both fascinating and disturbing. Stay tuned as we uncover the details of this controversial experiment. Chapter 3. The Monster Study, The monster study, conducted in 1939 by Wendell Johnson and his team at the University of Iowa, targeted children with speech issues. The study aimed to understand the effects of positive and negative speech therapy on children. However, the methods used in this study were highly controversial and have since been condemned for their ethical shortcomings. Researchers divided the children into two groups. One group received positive reinforcement for their speech, while the other group was subjected to negative reinforcement. The children in the negative reinforcement group were told that they were stutterers, even if they weren't. The results were devastating. Many of these children developed speech problems that lasted a lifetime. The monster study is a haunting example of how powerful and harmful labels can be, especially on young, impressionable minds. Despite its controversial nature, the monster study has contributed to our understanding of the effects of positive and negative reinforcement on behavior. As we move forward, it's important to remember the lessons learned from the monster study. Stay tuned as we delve into our final experiment, which explores the conditioning of fear in a young child. Chapter 4. The Little Albert Experiment. Finally, let's talk about the Little Albert Experiment conducted by John B. Watson and Rosalie Rayner in 1920. This experiment is one of the most famous and controversial studies in the history of psychology. This study aimed to explore the conditioning of fear in a young child, a concept that was relatively new at the time. The researchers used a baby, known as Little Albert, to test their theories on classical conditioning. Little Albert was around 9 months old when the experiment began. In the experiment, Little Albert was exposed to a white rat, which he initially showed no fear of. He would play with the rat without any signs of distress. However, the researchers paired the sight of the rat with loud, frightening noises, such as the clanging of a steel bar. Over time, Little Albert began to associate the rat with the loud noises and developed a fear of the rat. This demonstrated the process of classical conditioning in action. This fear eventually generalized to other white and fluffy objects, such as a rabbit and a fur coat. Little Albert would cry and try to move away from these objects. The Little Albert experiment showed how easily fear could be conditioned in a young child, providing valuable insights into human behavior. However, the study has been widely criticized for its ethical shortcomings. The well-being of Little Albert was not adequately considered. The researchers did not obtain informed consent from Albert's mother, and they did not attempt to decondition his fear after the experiment. This lack of ethical consideration has been a major point of contention. Despite its ethical issues, the Little Albert experiment has had a lasting impact on the field of psychology. It has been referenced in countless studies and textbooks. It contributed to our understanding of classical conditioning and the development of phobias, showing how environmental factors can shape emotional responses. The ethical implications of the Little Albert experiment have led to calls for stricter guidelines in psychological research. Modern ethical standards now require informed consent and debriefing. With that, we've explored some of the most controversial psychological experiments that went wrong. These studies serve as important lessons for future research. These studies, while groundbreaking in their findings, also highlight the importance of ethics in research. Ensuring the well-being of participants is now a fundamental aspect of psychological studies. As we've seen, the field of psychology has made significant strides in understanding human behavior, but these advancements have sometimes come at a cost. The experiments we've discussed today serve as important reminders of the ethical responsibilities we have as researchers. It's crucial to prioritize the well-being of participants and to adhere to strict ethical guidelines to prevent harm. Thank you for joining me on this journey through some of the most controversial psychological experiments. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update from Danny's Mind Facts. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning.